It's time for today'sstocks.com with host Pat Bolland.
Robert Call joins me. He's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of CloudDX. And Robert, a pleasure to meet you. You and your brother started this company, 7 years ago or so. What was your vision at the time?
Hey, Pat, pleasure to meet you too. The essential vision for CloudDX was to create and bring to market new technologies that connect patients, just people who need healthcare, with their healthcare providers in ways that drive efficiency and improve outcomes. And we founded CloudDX actually by acquiring the medical device division of an existing company that I used to run called BioSign Technologies. So we knew what we were doing when we started the company. We knew we had something. We had a new technology called PulseWave, and we had also become an entrant, a finalist, in fact, at that time in something called the Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize competition. So our vision was around technologies that we knew we could bring to market. We just had to do the job, and it's taken 7 years, but here we are.
And your mantra seems to be right from your website: innovation, collaboration, integration, and transformation. Can you actually tell me what those actually mean to you?
Yeah, I sure can. And it is the sort of the four pillars of the growth that we're seeing at CloudDX. We are one of the most innovative companies in our space. In addition to being the first ever Canadian company to win an X Prize, we've won many, many other awards for innovation. The technologies we bring to market are, in many cases, very new and patented. For example, we announced just a few weeks ago that we have clinical validation now on a piece of software that goes on a smartphone that's capable of detecting and diagnosing respiratory diseases based on the sound of a person coughing. And in fact, has been validated for tuberculosis in Africa, potentially a world-changing innovation that was really part of our X Prize project. So that's the innovation portion of that mantra, if you will. Collaboration also, though, is critical, because the reality is no one player of any size or stature can do it alone in healthcare. Healthcare is the essence of the old cliche that it takes a village to affect change, only in this case, it's a very, very large global village. And our recently announced partnership with Medtronic Canada, which I know we're going to talk about, is a perfect example of that. And then, integration and transformation is the follow-on to that collaboration. So moving healthcare data and being able to impact outcomes requires being able to connect all the disparate parts of the healthcare ecosystem: physicians, hospital systems, electronic medical record systems, patients themselves being able to access their data on a smartphone. And then all of that can lead, in the right circumstances, to better health outcomes, which is the whole point to this exercise. Getting people home sooner from the hospital, making sure that if they're home, that they're being monitored, so that if their health deteriorates for any one of many different reasons, their care team is aware of that. They can take action. That person get help sooner. That means that they may have a better outcome, or in many cases, in fact, they may not pass away, and lives are saved. And that is what keeps us going at CloudDX.
Talk about world changing, though, the pandemic, and I do want to get to Medtronic. I'll do it in a second, but the pandemic must have been a real boost to your business because of the growth of telemedicine. Am I correct in saying that?
You're absolutely right. And in fact, the COVID-19 pandemic has been a step change, an inflection point in the way that care is delivered all over the world. And it's very important for investors to note that this is not a flash in the pan. This is not a temporary effect that is going to sort of revert back to the way things used to be back in 2019 before the pandemic came along. Health Canada just published a report, in fact, that made it very clear: virtual care is care. It's the way that care is delivered now. And so that change in delivering care virtually, telemedicine, remote monitoring, and all the things that go around that, even electronic prescriptions, this is just now the new normal. CloudDX is a leader in this space, and we're very excited to be at this point in our trajectory.
You've mentioned Medtronic earlier. Tell me about that deal and how the two companies will work together.
We're very proud and excited to become a partner for Medtronic Canada. Medtronic, as many investors will know, is a public company, the largest, in fact, medical technology company in the world, and an absolute leader in the space of surgical hardware, monitoring of patients who have serious chronic illnesses like renal disease. Medtronic has, as touched upon in our press release, impacts the lives of 1 million Canadians every year as far as the patients that are part of that value chain. And so the way we're planning to work together is quite simple. Medtronic sees the future in virtual care. They looked for a partner that they knew could deliver virtual care at the highest level, and they found that in Cloud DX. So at every point where virtual care makes sense in the Medtronic customer system and customer ecosystem, we intend to work together to deliver that virtual care to Medtronic customers, first in Canada, potentially around the world.
Wow. You know, I was looking at your product, and remote patient monitoring is one of your key benefits. And I immediately went to something like Fitbit, but on steroids. Is that really what it is? Or how do you explain what it is that you've got?
No, it's a very great question. I'm glad you asked that question. Virtual care and remote monitoring is, in fact, a platform or an ecosystem that involves connecting patients who need care with their caregivers outside of the four walls of the clinic. It consists of devices, a little bit like Fitbits on steroids, but often medical devices that patients are familiar with: blood pressure cuffs, pulse oximeters, thermometers, weight scales. There's a mobile application that goes on a smartphone or a tablet that connects all these devices, allows that data to be collected and sent straight through to the cloud, hence our name, Cloud DX. But of course, you also need to be able to communicate with your care team. So that mobile app has Zoom built into it. You can do two-way telemedicine consults. You can do text messaging. Your care team can send you surveys every day. How are you feeling? How are your symptoms? You can even take photos. If you've just had surgery, you can take a photo of your incision, your wound, send that to your surgeon so your surgeon can make sure that you're healing properly and you're healing in time. So then all of this information is collated and automatically analyzed by algorithms that are looking for changes and looking for patterns. That saves the care team enormous amounts of time. So really, the only people they need to work with are the people who have had a change. They've had a decrease or an increase in something that's important that may mean that they're not getting well correctly, or that their chronic illness is exacerbating and they're on their way potentially to a bad outcome or going to the hospital. So that feedback loop allows a single clinician to address thousands of patients and only care for the ones who really need their help in that moment. And that saves the system a tremendous amount of resources, which is, of course, exactly what the healthcare system needs, because the need for healthcare is growing exponentially today.
You know, it's interesting. You've got the Connected Health virtual care platform that you just described, but it seems to me you also have your fingers in a lot of innovative technologies. What are you most excited about the future in that space?
So as I mentioned earlier, Cloud DX is unique and all of our competitors as the competitor that invents our own devices, gets them approved, gets them validated by third-party rigorous academic studies. And so in addition to the Connected Health Kit we currently deliver today, which is state-of-the-art and FDA cleared and Health Canada licensed, we have 3 new products coming to market in the near future. I've already mentioned the cough analysis system. Oh, yeah. So it's a smartphone app that can literally detect and with 91% accuracy, according to the study, can detect tuberculosis based on the sound of a person coughing. That is something that's extremely exciting, a massive game changer for screening of tuberculosis around the world. Right behind that, we have a wearable device that, again, comes from our Tricorder XPRIZE win. It's called Vitality. It's a device that monitors all the vital signs continuously. Most importantly, Pat, it monitors blood pressure without a cuff of any kind, constantly updating blood pressure, along with ECG, heart rate, respiration, pulse ox. This is used for post-surgical monitoring and transitional care. When patients are moved from the operating room into recovery, from recovery all the way home, continuously monitoring their status so that if the slightest indication that they're not healing correctly pops up, the software is smart enough to interpret that, feed that back to the care team that this patient needs additional attention. And so that system has recently been validated, and is in fact an announcement being made today that one of those validation studies has been published now in a peer-reviewed journal, proving our ability to monitor that blood pressure remotely and continuously, which is a very unusual feature. Very, very few devices like that in the world. And so that is a very exciting piece of technology as well. And then the third piece of technology we're bringing to market is an update to our existing PulseWave pulse analyzing wrist cuff device. It's a device that measures blood pressure, but it's also the only device of its kind in the whole world that, in addition to blood pressure, monitors respiration rate simultaneously with blood pressure. These two are connected. They're important measurements, and especially for people who have long COVID syndrome, where shortness of breath and abrupt inability to breathe, in addition to fluctuating blood pressure, is a sign that their condition is getting worse. So this is another product that we're bringing to market in the very near future.
Robert, you're at the perfect intersection. The pandemic has brought this to light of technology and healthcare. Do you see consolidation in the industry?
Well, I think that goes, absolutely without saying. There's a tremendous amount of innovation going on right now at many levels. And some of it is innovation around the concept of gathering of data and gathering of vital signs. Some of it is around the concept of patient engagement, which is finding ways to deliver this information to patients to make them more a part of their own care. Our view at Cloud DX, again, based on that collaboration point of view that I mentioned earlier, that you mentioned, Ashley, and asked me about,
Yep.
is absolutely that companies can team up. They can team up in multiple ways, whether it's partnerships like the one we just announced with Medtronic, whether it's joint ventures, whether it's eventual mergers and acquisitions. But I believe that there's no question that in the future, there will be consolidation, there will be winners, and we intend to be one of those winners.
Robert, thank you so much.
Pat, it's been a pleasure.
Robert Kaul, CEO and founder of Cloud DX.